The golden spires of Korathia Prime gleamed under the light of 3 suns as Commander Thrix stood before the Grand Assembly. His 4 arms spread wide in the traditional gesture of victory, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the ceremonial lights that bathed the chamber in rainbow hues. Today marked the 3rd anniversary of humanity's extinction, and the Korathian Empire had never been stronger. Esteemed members of the Assembly, Thrix's voice resonated through the translators, reaching the representatives of 47 species who comprised the Korathian Empire. 3 years ago, we eliminated the greatest threat to galactic stability. The aggressive expansion of the human species has ended forever. Their homeworld lies in ruins, their colonies are dust, and their primitive ships float as debris in the void. The assembly erupted in harmonious clicking sounds, the universal expression of approval among the dominant species. Thrix felt the vibration of success through his sensory organs. The humans had been a problem for only 50 standard years, but their rapid expansion and refusal to submit to Korathian authority had sealed their fate. No species could stand against the combined might of the Empire. Minister Zeph, a gaseous being contained within a mechanical suit, floated forward. Commander Thrix, your tactical brilliance in the Soul Campaign will be remembered for generations. The simultaneous strike on all human worlds was a masterpiece of coordination. Not a single human vessel escaped our net. But even as Thrix accepted the praise, something nagged at his consciousness. The humans had been surprisingly easy to defeat in the end. After decades of fierce resistance, they had simply stopped fighting. Their final transmissions had been not of defiance or pleas for mercy, but of strange acceptance. He pushed the thought away. Dead species tell no tales. 3 months after the celebration, the first report came from the Outer Veil, the Empire's mining sector. Station Gamma 7 had gone silent. Supply ships found it intact, but completely abandoned. Number: signs of struggle, no damage to systems, no bodies. Just empty corridors and powered-down equipment. The incident was classified as an anomaly, possibly a collective evacuation, due to contaminated life support. Captain Urin of the patrol vessel Eternal Vigil was dispatched to investigate when 3 more stations reported similar conditions within. The same week, her ship, equipped with the finest sensors in the Empire, found nothing but more questions. The station's logs showed normal operations until the exact moment everyone vanished. Security footage revealed nothing, as if the recordings had been surgically edited. Commander Thrix, Yaren reported through the quantum communicator, her voice tight with concern. The pattern is expanding. 17 facilities in the Outer Veil have been abandoned. No distress signals, no ion trails from escaping ships. The populations simply disappeared. Thrix studied the holographic map in his private chamber. The affected stations formed no discernible pattern. Different species operated them. They extracted different resources, and they were scattered across thousands of light years. The only commonality was their isolation, far from the Empire's core worlds and military bases. Deep beneath the surface of a rogue planet designated XK-231, Captain Maya Rodriguez watched the Korathian confusion through hijacked surveillance. Feeds. The planet, ignored by the Empire's surveys as a worthless ball of ice, housed one of 17 hidden human colonies. For 3 years, the survivors had worked in absolute silence, building, learning, and preparing. Phase 1 is proceeding as planned, she reported to the Council of Survivors through quantum-encrypted channels. The Korathians haven't connected the dots yet. They still think we're extinct. The truth was far more complex than the aliens could imagine. When humanity realized the war was unwinnable through conventional means, they had enacted Protocol 7, voluntary extinction. The surface populations of Earth and the colonies had indeed perished, but not from Korathian weapons. They had uploaded their consciousness into quantum storage devices, their bodies dissolved to leave no genetic traces. The survivors, hidden in deep space installations and rogue planets, had spent 3 years perfecting the technology to bring them back. The abandoned Korathian stations weren't empty by accident. Human infiltration teams, using advanced cloaking, technology reverse-engineered from captured Korathian ships, had been systematically kidnapping alien personnel, not to kill them, but to study them. Every species in the Empire was analyzed, their weaknesses catalogued, their technologies dissected. Dr. Chun Wei worked in the bioengineering lab on XK-231, surrounded by containment fields holding various alien specimens. The Korathian's crystalline structure is vulnerable to specific sonic frequencies, he noted in his research log. The gaseous Zephyrians can be contained with magnetic fields. Each species has a weakness they've never had to defend against because they've never faced an enemy who studied them so thoroughly. Back on Korathia Prime, Thrix convened an emergency meeting of the military council. The disappearances had accelerated. Entire cargo fleets were vanishing in hyperspace. Military patrols reported ghost signals, sensor readings of massive objects that disappeared when investigated. Fear began to spread through the Empire, the kind of primal fear that came from facing the unknown. "We're dealing with something unprecedented," admitted Science Director Kelox, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "The energy signatures we're detecting don't match any known technology. It's as if space itself is being manipulated in ways our physics says is impossible." What Kelox didn't know was that human scientists had made a breakthrough the Korathians never achieved. By studying the quantum consciousness transfer technology, they had discovered how to phase matter between dimensions. Human ships could exist in a parallel space, invisible and intangible, until they chose to strike. Lieutenant James Morrison commanded one of these ghost ships, the Revenant. His crew of 50 humans had spent the last month mapping Korathian supply lines and defense networks. They moved through the Empire like shadows, gathering intelligence and occasionally stealing entire facilities by phasing them into parallel space. "The Korathians are starting to panic," Morrison reported to Captain Rodriguez. "Their military is spread thin trying to investigate all the incidents. They're pulling forces from the border regions to protect the core worlds." This was exactly what humanity had planned. Every disappeared station, every missing ship, every mysterious signal was designed to create fear and confusion. The Korathian Empire, built on the assumption of absolute superiority, had no doctrine for fighting an enemy they couldn't see or understand. In the deepest vault of XK-231, the restoration project neared completion. Millions of human consciousnesses waited in quantum storage, ready to be downloaded into new bodies grown from preserved genetic templates. But these wouldn't be the same humans who had died 3 years ago. Their minds had been enhanced during storage, given access to vast databases of knowledge, trained in virtual environments to be perfect soldiers and scientists. Engineer Patricia Kim supervised the construction of the Phoenix fleet, humanity's answer to Korathian military might. These ships incorporated technologies from dozens of species, improved by human innovation, and powered by zero-point energy reactors the aliens hadn't even theorized. Each vessel could phase between dimensions, appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly, and carry weapons that could crack planets. Asterisk, "We're not just building a fleet," Kim explained to her team. "We're building the future of warfare. The Korathians fight in 3 dimensions. We fight in 11. As the first year of disappearances came to a close, the Korathian Empire was in crisis. Trade routes were abandoned as merchants feared vanishing in the void. Colony worlds demanded military protection that couldn't be provided. The economy, built on the assumption of safe space travel, began to collapse. Commander Thrix stood in his office, looking at the latest reports. 137 facilities abandoned, 42 ships missing. Thousands of citizens vanished without a trace. And in all that time, not a single piece of evidence pointing to the perpetrator. No weapons fire, no debris, no demands for ransom or surrender. "Sir," his aide entered, all four arms trembling with fear. "We've received a transmission. It's impossible, but the genetic markers confirm it's genuine." Thrix took the data pad with growing dread. The message was simple, broadcast on an old human emergency frequency that shouldn't have existed anymore. It contained just 4 words that sent ice through his circulatory system. "You missed a few." The age of fear had begun for the Korathian Empire. They had declared humanity extinct, but something far more dangerous had been born from humanity's ashes. The vanishing would continue, each disappearance a reminder that the Empire's greatest mistake was assuming that killing humans would be enough to stop them in the darkness between stars. Humanity prepared for the next phase. The Korathians would soon learn that some species don't just die when you try to exterminate them. Some species come back stronger, smarter, and with nothing left to lose. Asterisk. The reckoning Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, flagship of humanity's Phoenix fleet, as it maintained position in parallel space above Korathia Prime. Through the dimensional viewer, she could see the Empire's capital, world bustling with activity, its defenders unaware that death waited just one reality away. 3 years of patience, 3 years of preparation, and now the moment of revelation had arrived. "All stations report ready," announced her tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Park. "The fleet awaits your command." 1,000 ships hung in the parallel dimension, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and stolen alien technology. The crews were a mixture of original survivors and the newly restored, humans who had been reborn from quantum storage with enhanced abilities and burning purpose. Rodriguez opened a channel to the entire fleet. "Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity doesn't forgive genocide. Today, we show them what happens when you try to extinguish the human spirit. All ships, prepare for dimensional shift on my mark." In the material universe, Commander Thrix was in the middle of another emergency session when every alarm in the capital simultaneously screamed to life. Sensors detected massive gravitational anomalies appearing throughout the system. Space itself seemed to fracture as human ships materialized from nowhere, surrounding Korathia Prime in a perfect sphere of death. "Impossible," Thrix gasped, his crystalline form resonating with shock. "There are thousands of them. Where did they come from?" The answer came in the form of a system-wide broadcast that overrode all Korathian communications. Captain Rodriguez appeared on every screen, every hologram, every neural interface in the Empire. She looked different from the humans they remembered, her eyes glowing with an inner light that spoke of transformation beyond mere survival. "Korathian Empire," she began, her voice carrying the weight of 3 years of hidden rage. "You celebrated our extinction. You divided our worlds among yourselves and erased us from your histories. But humanity has a saying: reports of our death have been greatly exaggerated." The Phoenix fleet's true capabilities became apparent within minutes. Korathian defense platforms, considered impregnable, were destroyed by weapons that ignored shields entirely. Phase missiles materialized inside capital ships, detonating in their reactors before defenses could react. Gravity manipulation turned the Empire's own weapons against them, bending laser fire back onto the ships that fired them. But the true horror for the Korathians wasn't the military superiority. It was the revelation of what had happened to their missing citizens. On the human ships, thousands of aliens worked alongside the human crews, but these weren't prisoners or slaves. They had been converted, their minds altered by human neural technology, to see the truth of their empire's crimes. Minister Zeph, who had praised Thrix's genocide, now stood beside Captain Rodriguez as her advisor. "My people, the gaseous being, transmitted to his species. I have seen the truth. The Korathians told us humans were monsters, but we were the ones who murdered billions of innocents. The humans offer us redemption through service." The psychological warfare was as devastating as the physical assault. Every species in the Empire received broadcasts from their own converted people, explaining how the Korathians had manipulated them into participating in genocide. The unity of the Empire, built on shared guilt and mutual benefit, began to crack. Doctor Chun Wei had perfected the conversion process during the years of preparation. It wasn't mind control in the traditional sense, but rather a forced expansion of empathy and perspective. The converted aliens experienced human memories of the genocide, felt the pain of watching their world burn, understood the desperation of a species facing extinction. Most couldn't handle the emotional weight and became fervent allies of humanity. On the surface of Korathia Prime, General Marcus Thompson led the ground assault. His forces weren't just soldiers, but enhanced humans who had been reborn with capabilities the Korathians couldn't match. They could phase through walls, survive in vacuum, and heal from injuries that would kill normal beings. The quantum storage and restoration process had transformed them into something beyond human, yet still driven by human emotion and determination. Secure the government district. Thompson ordered his troops as they materialized in the capital city. Remember, we're not here to massacre civilians. We're here to dismantle the Empire and ensure they can never threaten anyone again. The Korathian military, for all its supposed superiority, crumbled within hours. Their tactics, unchanged for centuries, were useless against an enemy that could appear anywhere, phase through defenses, and turn their own technology against them. Commander Thrix watched from his bunker as his empire collapsed in real time. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from 17 sectors," his aide reported, terror evident in all 4 of his arm's movements. "The outer colonies are abandoning the Empire and pledging neutrality." But humanity wasn't interested in simple military victory. The Phoenix Fleet deployed the Restoration Protocol, the culmination of 3 years of scientific advancement. Across the Empire, the quantum storage devices activated, and millions of human consciousnesses that had been preserved began downloading into cloned bodies on reclaimed worlds. Earth itself, the burned husk that the Korathians had left behind, became the site of the greatest miracle. Human terraforming technology, enhanced by stolen Korathian science, restored the planet in days rather than centuries. Cities rose from the ashes, ecosystems regenerated, and billions of humans who had supposedly died were reborn. Captain Rodriguez stood in the ruins of the Korathian Grand Assembly, the same chamber where Thrix had celebrated humanity's extinction. The commander himself knelt before her, his crystalline form cracked and dim, his 4 arms bound by phase restraints that prevented any movement between dimensions. "You don't understand," Thrix pleaded through his translator. "We followed the laws of galactic conquest. The strong consume the weak. It's the way it has always been." Rodriguez looked at him with eyes that held no mercy. "Then you should have made sure we were weak. Instead, you taught us to be stronger than you could ever imagine. You showed us that the galaxy operates on cruelty and might, so we became crueler and mightier than any species before us. The transformation of the galaxy happened with stunning speed. The Korathian Empire, which had stood for thousands of years, ceased to exist within a month. Its member species were given a choice: accept human oversight and reform their societies, or face the same isolation and monitoring that humanity would impose on the Korathians themselves. Most chose reformation. The converted aliens, now numbering in the millions, served as bridges between their species and humanity. They helped establish new governments based on cooperation rather than domination, defense rather than conquest. The galaxy's economy was restructured to ensure no single species could accumulate enough power to threaten others. For the Korathians themselves, the punishment was poetic. They were not exterminated, as they had tried to do to humanity. Instead, they were isolated on. Their homeworld, their technology restricted, their space travel prohibited. They would live, but they would live knowing that every day of their existence was a gift from the species they had tried to destroy. Doctor Way established this. Redemption centers on former Korathian worlds, where aliens could voluntarily undergo the empathy enhancement process. Many came willingly, wanting to understand how they had been manipulated into participating in genocide. The process was painful, forcing them to confront the horror of their actions, but it also offered absolution through understanding. The Phoenix Fleet became the new peacekeeping force in the galaxy, but unlike the Korathian military, it wasn't built on fear and oppression. Human ships patrolled the space lanes, but they also brought aid to struggling colonies, shared technology to improve lives, and mediated disputes between species. The galaxy learned that humans could be terrifying enemies, but also generous allies. On the restored Earth, a monument was erected to commemorate both the genocide and the resurrection. It stood where the United Nations building had once been, a crystalline spire that reached into the sky. Inside, the names of every human who had died were inscribed, along with a simple message: "We died so humanity could be reborn stronger. Captain." Rodriguez retired from military service after the Empire's fall, but she remained a symbol of human resilience. In her final public address, she stood before representatives of all galactic species and delivered words that would be remembered. For generations, the Korathian Empire believed that power came from the ability to destroy. They were wrong. True power comes from the ability to survive, to adapt, and to rise stronger from every attempt to break you. Humanity died once, and from that death, we learned to become unkillable. Let our story be a warning to any who would attempt genocide again. The species you tried to exterminate might just be the one that judges you in the end. The galaxy entered a new age, one where cooperation replaced conquest and diversity was protected rather than suppressed. The Korathian prophecy had been fulfilled in a way they never expected. They had declared humanity extinct, and in doing so had created something far more powerful than the original human race. Humanity had returned not just with fire and fury, but with wisdom earned through suffering and strength forged in the crucible of near extinction. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps that was humanity's greatest victory of all. Asterisk.